right now, and the link will be up on our YouTube channel probably in 3 hours or so in the most recent uploads section. Before we get started, a quick poll, which always kind of helps the presenters gauge the audience level. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a couple polls here. The first one is, are you a Trade Ideas subscriber? And just real simple, please answer binary on those two options. And once I have a quorum, I'll send out the results. But it's interesting, we've had kind of very similar polls every time we do this, and we'll see if this kind of comes to fruition here. So we're almost at 70%. We need a couple more, you guys. And that's looking good to me, 70%. All right, let me close that poll and share that poll. Typical 49, actually a little bit more, 59% have the subscription and 41% don't. Usually it's around a 50-50 split where we've got users and people who are thinking about coming in and using. So thank you for that. I'm going to launch another poll here real quick, if I can figure out how to get to that one. All right, the second one is, you, for those of you who answered in the affirmative that you do have Trade Ideas, do you have access to the Trade Ideas premium account, which includes the artificial intelligence? We just want to see who's on standard and who's on premium. So the question is coming at you, do you have access to the artificial intelligence, which is essentially the premium version of our product? And again, this particular poll kind of shapes out like it looks like it's shaping, but I still need some more of you to vote, and we can get a good sample here. All right, I'll give it 10 more seconds here for just a few more people, and it looks like it's kind of falling in line with the typical breakdown. So it's nice to see confirmation in these polls. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close that poll, and pretty much similar, if I share it, 2/3, usually almost 3/4 to 2/3 are current AI license premium subscribers, and the remaining 1/4 to 1/3 in this percent are using the standard. So very good. I appreciate you guys taking the time to do that. So without further ado, I'm going to turn the focus back over to Andy and Jamie, and I know they've got some good content prepared for you today. The question box is open. I see somebody typing in, so I'm assuming they can hear me, but if somebody else wants to let me know that they can see and hear, that'd be great, and then I can pass it over to Andy and Jamie. We'll do our best to try and answer questions. Thank you, Randy and Christopher and Joanne. We'll do our best to answer questions as they come through, but if you really want to get a question answered, it's probably best to hold on to it till the end as to not distract the presenters, and they'll do their best to get to the questions towards the end of the broadcast. So again, the recording is rolling and we're all set, so I'll bring in Andy. Hello, Andy. Hello, Jamie.
Hello, Steve. Hello, Jamie.
Andy,
hey, Andy, you're a
mic,
little faint.
Is your mic down or up?
It was up.
There we go. Now you sound like a bona fide radio broadcaster. All right, I'm going to go on. You guys enjoy the content.
Andy, how's it going?
Oh, man, I'm struggling a little bit, but I'll get through it. Yeah, it just I think it's been since the spring since I've had any allergy deals. I don't have them that often, but when they do get me. And I think that hurricane down there must be kicking up something because, yeah, it's got me today. But I think I got a couple of cough drops in my mouth, some Burt Bees, honey and lemon. So, yeah, I think I'll be able to make it.
I hear you. I've been suffering with that as well. If I have to make any noises, I'll mute myself. But hopefully it'll go okay.
Yeah, I think it will. Well, thanks everybody for joining us today. Thanks for taking time out of your day. And let's just dive right in. Take care of the legal issues first, and our good old disclaimer. Just want everybody to know this is for educational purposes only. Anything that you see and hear should not be construed as investment advice. If that's what you're seeking, please look for a registered broker, an RIA. But we have all the cool, fun stuff. Their style is kind of boring, if you ask me. But anyway, let's dive into what else we have here at Trade Ideas besides an incredible software. I like to call it 5-star support, education, and training. And I don't say that lightly. This is just incredible amount for you guys in here for the first time and are, you know, kicking the tires. You've been hearing about Trade Ideas and the power, but we also want you to know it's more than just a software. We got your back. We're here to help you. It starts in the trading room. We have a live trading room with a trader who's been trading for a very long time, a very successful trader in Barry, and you get to listen to him and watch him trade while you look over his shoulder at his desktop. I am very aware how effective this can be, because for the longest time, Steve and I, for about 4 years, we had a service much like it, and I actually would train people in China, like 450 traders in China, where they can hook up and watch a trader, you know, a professional trader over their shoulder. There's just so much to that. If you're not in there, you need to get in there. It's free for everyone. So find out more information about that if you're not in there right now. We have webinars throughout the week, 4 of them in the same 5 o'clock time slot. Jamie, Steve, and myself usually run the show, but we do throw in Dan Merkin and Brad Williams on Wednesdays for kind of a Q&A, kind of a tech Q&A session where you can pretty much open the floor for your questions, and that's always a fun one to go to as well. And now we have a Friday support session, which I notice is growing and growing every week. And this is not just for the users, the new users. One of our, Marissa coined the phrase the other day, Freshman Friday, which I thought was cute. And I kind of like the sound of that, because it is. It's for people that are new to the software, and you may be waiting on your one-on-one training. Hey, you can come in here for 3 hours and ask any question you want, and we'll talk about it and show you how to do it with our software. Great forum for new traders and for people who are still kicking the tires and want to see more of the product. Please come in that, because sometimes we do have a lot of repeat subscribers that come in here, so we want to show them new stuff as well. So we want to show. We wanted to open up something to show more of our product to the people who are brand new or looking at our product. So anyway, I know I spent a little time there, guys, but I'm really proud of what we do here with our education and training. And we also, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the one-on-one free training you get when you do subscribe to Trade Ideas. This is a $99 value. We have people that take multiple sessions, but when you do sign up, subscribe to any version, you get a free one-on-one training session with myself, Jamie, or Steve. A great value. Don't miss it. If you subscribe, sign up. It may have to wait a couple of weeks right now. That's okay. You'll learn about the product, and we can go be more advanced in there. All right, let's take a look at Brokerage Plus. Brokerage Plus, it's a module we have that allows people to basically hook up to interactive brokers. And if you're more advanced and you want to take some of your strategies and automate them, you can do so with our Brokerage Plus product. I'm not going to go too in depth in that, because it is only for a few select traders out there who you want to dive into the strategic automation of trading. So if you want to find out more about it, just go to that trade-ideas.com/beta and you can find out more information. All right, the agenda for today. We're going to talk about the market recap, and I think I'm not going to even speculate. I'm just going to wait till we get in there. And we'll go over the Holly recap. Jamie and I both agreed during our prep, that wasn't a bad day for Holly considering the sloppy action we saw in the market. So we're going to talk about her first trade of the day, which, man, was just incredible, and a few other trades too. Let Jamie breaks down the Holly really, really well, so I'll let him handle that segment, and then he's also going to maybe talk to you more about how he's seeing more short setups these days than he has in the prior several months. a lot of things are kind of setting the stage for a potential, sell-off in the market. Time will tell. We don't like to lean too far to one side, but I think, Steve and I and Jamie are kind of all in agreement on what we're seeing. I've been talking about the action we've seen over the last couple of months and distribution and things like that. So we'll talk about that in the market recap as well. And thanks to Barry, I have a new alert for you. He shared it with me yesterday, and it's kind of another little bottom fishing alert. Those of you who have been to his room, I'm sure you have seen it. I'll talk a little bit more about that. And then we'll obviously open up to questions throughout the hour. All right, but first let's back out of this. And I shouldn't have done that. I'll just back out and let's pull up the good old SPY daily if I can grab it here. All right, let me get me a drink of water. And this is what we have in the spiders. We've been talking about in both this webinar and in Steve's webinar, this crazy kind of distribution action where a lot of your down days have been on, big volume, up days of smaller volume. This is nothing new, guys. I don't want you to think that it's this is just something we pulled out of a hat. We've been seeing this for a while in the market. I just see it. I'm just seeing it for a longer period of time now. Like something could be building here. I don't know. Time will tell. There's definitely a lot of rebuilding, a lot of construction to be done to the spiders to make it look, bullish again on a short-term time frame. Of course, if I zoom out, one would argue, wow, look at there. I mean, yeah, it's still a bullish trend. There's no arguing with that. Okay. But when active traders kind of like to look more in the more recent action we've seen in the market, and I mentioned I think about a week ago, time will tell, but we could be seeing a developing head and shoulders here if we get this kind of stagnant action for the next month, and then heading into October. That could really be interesting heading into the scary month of October, where it seems like all the crashes do happen. I don't even know why I said that word, but I had to throw it out. But anyway, yeah, I mean, we in the past, like over here, you've sold off, and then once we get a bounce, we get a nice move higher. Well, we tried it here, boom, kind of failed, made a lower high. Boom, tried it again. Let's go back, and right now, this is kind of some ugly action. It's an engulfing kind of bar there, even though it would need more if it's at the top up here, but nonetheless, you're trying to get some price action if you're bullish to move higher, and we could potentially be setting up for yet another third lower high. And then we would have to see if we make a lower low. And then we got a series of patterns developing here where if you're a bull, you have to question have we seen the top? I don't know. I mean, I'll admit I'm pretty bearish right now, but I like to be early. I'm not one of these ones that get so stubborn that the market basically has to correct by, 15 or 20% before I say, wow, okay, things have changed. Now, I think good traders try to anticipate a little bit, be on top of things, especially if you're, trading for the longer term swing trades and things like that. But nonetheless, I think they kind of much look the same in the Qs, same type of action there in the Qs. It was funny today that the Qs actually was leading the charge down in the morning. Steve and I were talking during this time, and if I pull up the 15-minute chart, the spiders had not yet gone to lows, and the Qs kind of led the charge down. But later on in the day, the Qs were actually holding up as the spiders and diamonds tried to go to the lows. So interesting action there in the tape. Qs weak early, the weakest sector, but then was holding on, being stronger later in the day. But Jamie, I don't see any signs, warning signs right now, and still we're kind of in a sloppy range right here. I mean, I shouldn't say any warning signs. We are potentially making a third lower high, so that would raise some red flags to me. But for the most part, we're still kind of in no man's land.
Yeah, I mean, we're just kind of right in the middle of this little congestion area right here, and also, hey, it's late August. people are going to start rolling back in from vacation. The market's going to start heating up. Come September, that's just right around the corner.
Mm-hmm.
So to see this type of activity at this point in the year, you know, not really anything to get too excited or upset about.
No, I agree. I mean, there's some when you see the little volatility, and unlike over here where it was almost kind of a little orchestrated, even though the cues were more sloppy during this period, but you didn't see the volatility in the spiders. It was kind of a waltz down, you know, where now we're seeing, like Steve likes to say, more of a kind of a mosh pit, you know, action down. So that just tells me a little nerves on edge, you know, people are getting a little bit nervy, unnervy, I should say, and time will tell. But yeah, I'm gonna have to say I'm a little bearish. But anyway, Jamie, if we don't have anything else to add, I think it's probably time to dive into Holly at this point.
Yes, and I apologize for coughing into everybody's ear just then. I was a little late with my mute button. But anyway, I'm ready to take it, Andy, so give me a second here.
All righty. Shall I pass it or you grab it?
I got it.
All right.
And just let me know when you can see.
I got it.
Coming through? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so here's the first trade in Holly today. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's it. See you tomorrow. No, I mean, hey, Holly definitely started off with some flair today, one could say. Now, before we get into the trades, of course, that was a doozy. Beautiful setup. So Holly came to the party today with 7 strategies, 2 of which were short, the other 5 are long. We can see a pretty good distribution of trades. Everybody got a piece today. These guys got 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, and 5 respectively. And you know, for a large part of the day on 4, 6, and 8 trades, Holly was batting 1,000 early on, which is pretty darn impressive for any algorithmic system or even a human to just, you know, methodically put these trades on in a very sloppy market and to be this accurate. So couldn't be more pleased. You know, we finished with risk on of $1.56, but we can see here it was much higher in the day, encroaching just a little above the 3-point level there, almost getting up to 304 before things started getting soft. And you know, it's like we've been saying here lately, it's the market. You know, if you get up and you try to hold, a lot of times they'll take your gold. Risk off, a little bit different of a story, less risk, kind of a nice even progression, just not near the upwards of $3 level that we saw on the risk off today, or excuse me, risk on. Of course, it's all about risk management, and Holly's strong suit, her superpower, are the statistically weighted entries. We can typically do a little bit better than her on the exits once we get into the rhythm of the methodology. All right, so risk off 82, risk on $1.56, but risk off popping out, we're topping out at $3 today. And of course, first out of the gate today, ACIA. You're looking at the 5-minute chart here, just a beautiful entry happening to coincide with this little range break in the pre-market. Didn't do a whole lot of volume, but it does set up a nice little line for us there. And we can see the blue line is Holly calling the play. We had our risk assessed right here. And of course, never acted like it was going to encroach on the stop loss. So a nice clean trade, especially considering the fact that it was 5 minutes into the open. We know that that can be a very slippery slope. But when we have a little bit of statistical probability on our side, kind of evens out the playing field. So while we're talking about that, this was from Sunrise Movers today. So that little guy came to the party with 68.6% chance of the thing working for us. Of course, it was the only one out of that, so that's why we're seeing 100% out of one trade. Obviously here we had 2 power hour long towards the end of the day, batting 0. All right. But that's not such a big surprise. Things kind of dried up towards the close. Of course, we always have a few pushing higher highs into the close. Just not where the action was at. Myself, Steve, Andy, we were all kind of sitting around going, well, here's last Thursday. Here's excuse me, here's last Thursday, here's the Thursday before last, and the respective Fridays. Are we going to do the same thing again today? And of course, during these days, relative volume was pretty much pegged out over to all day. We didn't get that type of volume push today. Sellers did not come back out at the close. So it's no surprise to see that the statistical model that is Holly, who doesn't do all this stuff like we do, going, well, it's, you know, trying to predict or use all of, you know, our information that we've gathered and trying to predict which way the market goes, or, you know, what have you. She just she doesn't have those emotions. All right, the statistical model spotted predominantly long opportunities today, and we can see a little bit of a gap between the first trade and then kicking back in, not quite 50 minutes in, with a flurry of longs. But what I really liked about it today is there was a little bit of short money, not a whole lot. All right, of course we see here on this PGRE, wow, beautiful short right here at the top of the range. I remember seeing this trade get put on, and of course it took a little time to get going here. Of course, we look at why did Holly get out. She did manage to stay in this one the entire timed hold. So topping formation, that little guy's looking for a 60-minute hold time. So we can see here, Holly didn't prematurely bail on the profit save functionality. It's just she did what she was programmed to do. The shaded area right here represents the timed hold getting out. But of course, now we talk about risk on. We see Holly getting out in risk off mode. So what do? We look at this chart and go, wow, it's working so far. A little sideways action. I see Holly getting out. I'm gonna get out with her. Take that whopping 3 cents, right? But if we can visualize this chart and go, well, here's the entry line. Stop loss was way up here at 16.45. We've been in the money or flat the entire time. So we're going to stay in this trade. We're going to see if we can get a little bit more out of it. And of course, if you did that today, you were rewarded. And you know, this was a pretty painless trade. We had some little sideways breaks, but that's just when buyers and sellers become even. And then of course, before the day was out, we got a nice move to the downside. You know, obviously we're looking at the daily here. When Holly made the short, put in this little topping formation, was at the top of this range right here on the daily. And of course, we got a nice little capitulation down to here, even getting into these candles a little bit towards the close here. So, you know, once again, a very well executed trade on Holly's behalf to the short side. And of course, if we're soft again tomorrow, who knows? This one might be a good one to keep an eye on, because if things get soft tomorrow, we got all this as a playground right in here for some additional room to the downside. So just keep in mind, not only can Holly bring us good plays during the day, but some of the plays that she spits out, we might want to keep our eyes on for the next open.
Mm-hmm. Jamie, so, can I add something there, if you don't mind?
Sure.
Going back to the daily, you can see it's a very kind of weak downtrending stock, but also stocks kind of take on personalities, and I love like when look at these candles, they're beautiful. You have a lot of color. So when you have those big long red bars and green bars, they say that tells me a stock likes to trend. You know, so if you are in with Holly and you see her get out with a 3 cent winner, but you look over there and you see this stock has a pattern, especially lately, has a pattern of selling off and trending on those. When you see those solid daily candles like that, it can kind of maybe help you to stay in a trade. So, just tell yourself, I mean, honestly, who wants to take 3 cents? You might as well write it out. See if you can make something of it. So
well, and that's perfect. Perfect analysis, Andy. But the bottom line is, just remember, Holly's superpower are the entries. We're probably a little bit better as humans managing the exit, so that's why it's a really good combination between the machine doing the heavy lifting and the statistical entry, and the human.
Exactly.
Just going, okay, well, we're in the trade now. All we have to do is obey our rule set. We've got our expectations set up. We should get some good action. As soon as we get into the bodies of these candles, well, fair game. And of course, there's a little bit of leftover for tomorrow, just in case things are soft.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's just look at the ACIA one more time. I mean, that was just really nice. And of course, how do we temper our expectations once we get up into these levels here? Well, we just take a glance. You know, that was wicking out at the top here, penetrating this prior level here, perfectly matching up with the wicks back here. So when we see this type of activity, you know, we might want to think about peeling off a little bit. Maybe not the whole thing, maybe just half, but just by doing a quick glance over here and trying to figure out, well, that it's definitely bumping its head, completely different from the ones that we look at a lot of times where there's nothing for them to bump their head on. But just some real simple ways to temper expectations. Emphasis on simple, emphasis on effective. No crazy studies needed. All right, so let's do this. Let's take a peek at some of the other risk on. Let's just look
One
at
other, if I can add something, going back to this, because it's beautiful daily on ACIA, and guys, this thing was doing very good volume this morning. So you had the Holly alert at 47.15. We always say look at the daily chart first. I mean, and if you pick that high wick going back to the month, I mean, when you have that kind of volume, you know, that kind of thrust behind this this stock, and you got a great early call from Holly like that, I'm just from my experiences, I would say they're going to go to that destination that destiny we always talk about when they're associated with this volume. 9 times out of 10, you know, of course, the one time you hold it in reverse is right, but no, I just you know, peel off some, but try to learn to, you know, to stay in till you find those levels of resistance, because that's where you're going to start making the big money, not by taking the 10-15 cent, you know, scalps. You know, start going for the dollars and $2. That's where the big money's going to be.
right.
So
So
learn to trust the charts. Yeah.
we get that statistically viable signal, and then we look right here, and this is roughly where Holly made the call. So we look over here, and we're like, wow, this thing's pumping with volume, because I can look at that in my single stock window at the time, or create a craft a top list to get a quick peek. Hey, 1 minute volume's off the hook, 5 minute volume is too. Then Holly comes in and goes, hey, statistically sound. I mean, you when you combine all those things together and then you just do the little once over, okay, well, Holly's calling it, we got huge volume, anywhere up to here is game. It even gave you a little bit more before it pulled back. But it's just reading the puzzle. Everything makes sense. There's no hesitation, right? You get the results, you say thank you, and you move on. And of course, Holly wasn't done after that one. Here's another beautiful little trade, all right? Wake up call, spits out Zumzi. Right here is the entry. Now we've got statistical weight coming out of wake up call. It's only coming in at 46.7%, but this little guy never ceases to produce, right? What's nice about this one is here's the blue line. What do we notice here? Oh, okay, it just completed a little opening range break as well. We get it just a little bit later with a Holly call. Could have bought the top of that candle, would have been no sweat. Stop loss is way down here. Doesn't go immediately, just does a little sideways action, right? And when you see this little pattern sizing up on a Holly play, a lot of the times what I'm thinking in my head is, might want to leverage this one a little bit more, because it takes a little short nap right here. So this initial break occurs here, and then it sets up again right here with these two little guys right here, and then boom goes again. Hey, I'm gonna go sideways again before I just take the staircase on up here. And that's a perfect example of identifying the buyers early, get a little sideways action, buyers have to come back out, push the stock up, get that nice price action, and then figure out where we want to get out. Of course, Holly does her job with that statistical probability, but she gets out here on, once again, a time stop. And of course, this little guy is only looking at 45-minute hold times. So another takeaway from this is typically if Holly gets out on profit save, it's because it's her version of a trailing stop. And if things aren't working after a certain time period and the price action is a little too weird or volatile, she'll go ahead and plug out. So the fact that she's staying in these things, it jives with the pattern that we're seeing here. After the entry, we're not seeing this, you know, wiki type stuff. We're just seeing some nice smooth action. So also keep that in mind. If she's still in it and we're seeing these nice little consolidation bars here, that can be a good sign of what's to come. So another opportunity to really leverage the position here before it makes its bigger move. All right, let's see if we have any trade arounds today. And I don't really see.
I think we should probably talk about the one where she got caught on that pullback and it just drove right through her. Because
now you're talking about
those things happen. Yes, that one.
The power hour long.
Mm-hmm. That happens. Just wham.
Right. So Holly calls it right here. Bottom falls out. Stop is hit. Right. She gets out right here because the stop got hit. Boom.
That is one, guys. If you're trading, okay, Holly's set up. She has all these filter sets in there. Okay, apparently all these filter sets lined up, and the alert got triggered. But when you see huge volume and something crashing like that, be careful. I mean, there's just no reason. Holly's not looking to catch just falling 1 minute candle knives, and that's what happened there. So yeah, I mean, it's just. It happens every now and then. It's very, very rare. I think it maybe it's happened a couple of times this year. So, and it happened once very nicely to the upside, I remember.
You know, I'm so used to not seeing any stop hits. Usually it's reduced risk, profit save, time stop. But hey, it happens. Happens to the best of us, even if you're a machine. But in risk off mode, 25-cent loss. Loss is controlled. Not gonna crush us. But yeah, if you stayed in that thing, you'd be down 67 cents at the close.
Exactly.
Now this little power hour long at least spit out sub V. We were just, I think we were just talking about that, and you know, we were talking about SUV or SVU. We'll take a look at that chart as well. Now here's where Holly gets out on a reduced risk right here on the other power long trade of SUPV. So once again, calls the buy right here. We get a little wiki. She decides to get out here for the reduced risk on a penny loser. And of course, still didn't come anywhere near our stop loss. Basically just a little sideways action. If you gave it another 10, 15 minutes, boom, towards the close, you could have pulled 20 cents, but say somewhere between a penny loser and 20 cents was still capturable. So, you know, a little bit of green to offset the red here, and that's why we see power hour long after 2 trades, risk off down 26 cents. So, you know, nothing to write home about, but a little bit of red nonetheless.
Hey, Jamie, will you show Bill? He's asking how do you open the window with the Holly trades, and I'm not sure if he has the AI strategy window open. First,
yeah, let me demonstrate that. So if we kill the trade panel and we kill the strategy panel, well, you can always go to the Holly AI channel by just clicking on Holly AI, or if you would like to incorporate it into your own layout, we just go over here, new, and we find the AI Holly strategy window, and that brings up the strategy panel. Now to see her trade blotter, there's a couple different ways to do it. You can have 2 separate blotters, one for open, one for closed. I prefer to just show the entire thing. So you click on view all trades, and then here we have the trade blotter. So as the trades are generated in real time from Holly, they'll show up over here with their exact times and all of the information that you see here. Of course, these columns are configurable. So we can right click and hit columns. The columns that I'm seeing are over here on the left. And if I want to add any additional columns, it's always just a good idea to peruse all the available columns and see which ones you think are interesting. And then you can customize that. And once you get those columns set up, it's always a good idea to right click and hit save as default. That way, if you ever close your window out and pull it back up, it'll be just like you left it, and you won't have to reinstall and delete columns every single time. And of course, Holly is part of the premium package, so you will need to have premium to view Holly. Okay, so let me just catch up on, see if there's any other applicable questions here. What is the D after SPY QQQ? So I think you're talking about the D here, and that's simply because that's the daily chart. Over here, you see the 5 because this is the intraday 5-minute chart. So Marguerite, I hope that answers your question there. All right, so once again, topping out with risk on up at 3 on about right at 18 trades, 15 of which were long, in a market where the downdraft for a lot of the day, or in a market where the action was downdrafty for the rest of the day, or most of the day. We got the downdraft here, a little spike back up, but definitely a gurgling sound to the south side today. So the algorithmic system spitting out nothing but longs. Hey, big hand for Holly. All right, so that's what we got for Holly. Now, what I'd also like to talk about here, and I'm just going to reference my Twitter feed here with these compare count readings that we saw today, because I always kind of like to go over that material. And so this is what the compare counts look like that I like to keep, which are looking at the big cap stocks, over 4 billion in market cap. We get a little bit more specific with this one, over 5.4 billion. Of course, like to keep tabs on everything. So these are the lower cap between 2 and 4 billion and sub 2 billion. So after the first 20 minutes today, the big boys were telling me, 56% here, 55% here, of stocks doing high volume in the first 20 minutes, stocks hitting highs and lows with high volume. So, you know, kind of the magic number here when things can really start getting interesting is about the 55% mark. Anytime we approach that mark or get a little bit above it, that kind of tells me that, well, my expectations would be, well, you know, looking for a little bit of downdraft today. Now, of course, that is what we saw in the markets today, but of course, 5, 10, 15, 20, we were already getting kind of a feel for that. But then to see it take a little breather here and come back down and set new lows, that lets me know that my assumptions and the way that I'm perceiving this data is fairly accurate. It's never a guarantee and it's never precise to the T, but once again, as we like to say here, and many other traders in the past have mimicked this, you have to always follow your rules, but constantly adjust your expectations. And that's what these windows are really good for, is, you know,
hey, Jamie, before you close that out, could you pop it back up again and look at the small to mid cap? Now I want you, let's take a look. This is very good macro data, guys, and because let's take a look at what section held up best today, and let's put up the IWM on the chart there. And I think you're going to see that unless things got really, you know, it's actually finished up on the day.
Yeah. Look, it's the only green guy right here.
Yeah, exactly. So there you go. So very impressive.
Yeah. So, you know, it just these numbers just keep on lining up, right? So, you know, of course, I'll drop this little family of windows into the chat area before we're done here. So if you don't have them, post them up, start watching them. As you watch them, you will learn. Okay, so if in my head after these readings, I'm thinking, well, okay, there will be some downside trades today. Of course, we're looking at 55, 56. Once you start getting up to 60 and pushing over 60, that's when, you know, I typically will focus just in that direction. But when we see readings like this, the 55, 56, keeping in mind that we're still in a pretty decent uptrending bull market, we're just taking some pullbacks right now. It kind of sets me up. Well, there's going to be a little bit of both today. It's predominantly going to be long, or excuse me, predominantly the sell action is going to be to the downside. But then again, going back to Holly, she did spit out how many? What was it? 2, 3,
14, I thought you said.
3 or there were 3 shorts, right?
Oh, 3 shorts, okay.
You know, and she did manage to glean a little bit out of those. Of course, if you look at the things that I was kind of pointing out, you know, obviously there were some other things, like, for example, PVH, I believe this one was coming through. Let's see. What I'd like to show you though is, before I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but the other day I started playing around with gaps. Gaps have never been my favorite because a lot of the times I just really could never find any correlations. Now, gaps are one of the more popular things that people like to track because it's going to guarantee one thing: the stock's typically going to be in play if it's gapping up or down a certain percentage. So I started playing around with this little guy right here. I'll just pop in here and I'll show you the filter set. Of course, the alert running down now, filter set, not too crazy. You know, we're looking for a gap of $3 versus 3%. For those of you who are in Monday's webinar, you'll remember that that gap $3 wasn't originally supposed to be $3. It's supposed to be 3%. But guess what? Even myself and Andy and Steve, we get in a hurry, we might be tired. And so the beautiful thing about this is that the $3 was an accident. And a lot of things have been found on accident. I could rattle off a bunch of drugs that were discovered that they ended up using for something completely different, right? But the bottom line is, a lot of things in history have been found by kind of mistake, and this is a classic example. Turns out this works a lot better than a 3% gap. So the bottom line is, we have very simple things in here. A little bit of volume to try to keep the garbage out. The gap can be anywhere between 3 and 8.99%. Price range 20 to almost $80, and then this little guy just to keep the ETFs and iShares out. So it is a long strategy, and it's an all-day hold. Now, it still looks okay with shorter time frames, but the real juice is in the all-day hold, and you know, it kind of really goes against a lot of the things that we humans look for on charts. You're like, oh, it's a gap up, and I'm supposed to buy it? Well, you can easily close that gap, but this is where the statistics come into play. And there's different spins to put on it as well. So what I'm going to attempt to show you guys here is, well, yeah, it's a long strategy, but it doesn't win all the time. As you can see here, it's almost done, and we're at 45.7%. However, we throw in the bonus of the compare count activity and wait for things to come to us, it can still spit out some decent trades, even to the contrarian side. And it's like the odds maker is purposely torturing me here. The closer it gets to the end, the slower it goes in the last 1%. Of course, we're updating the databases right now, so no big surprise. Okay, so we're done here. We see some very interesting data here. Number one, look how tight these equity curves are. The lime green one is very close, which of course is the most important one because it's folding in 3 cents of slippage to each side for a total of 6 cents of slippage, and we're banging out $5 commissions, right? Not a whole lot of equity is needed if you needed to be in the whole thing, and so almost a $2 average winner and a 52-cent average loser. We look at the daily distribution. Okay, when it fires, tends to do well. When it loses small. 6 winning days are the most it's had in a row. Only 2 losing days in a row. Biggest day was 671, throwing $5,000 into every trade. Worst day was the $139 loser. So pretty impressive data set today. Nice equity curve. Nice distribution. Now, that's the juicy statistics, but this little guy only spit out 1 trade today, DLTR. And of course, because we're using a little bit of magic with the 20-day range, right here, I forgot about this little guy. He was hiding down there. These guys are being viewed as columns. That's why they stuck around when I hit the hide unused button. So it's got to be in this range in the change in the 20 days, right? Between 10 and 29.99. So that's why when we're looking at the activity today, and by the way, this will tell you before the market opens that this little guy's gapping up, but look, hour and a half before the market opened, it told us, hey, it's meeting the gap criteria. But then in the regular session, this little guy didn't fire off till 10:56 because that certain part of the filter equation was not met. Now, before I show you the next click here, what I was going to point out is, number one, this little guy's going to start delivering data right on the open. That doesn't mean that you're going to jump right in, okay? Because the way I like to play these guys is there's only going to be a limited amount of them. So this window is doing nothing more than going, hey, Jamie, just keep an eye on these stocks today. Let some kind of pattern develop, and then make your decision if that pattern comes to you and the risk is in place. You don't have to trade it immediately. That's not the goal here. So here we see the open, and we let Dollar Tree do its thing. Now, let's go back to the compare counts. What did we see? We saw downside action just breaching that 55% level, and of course, Dollar Tree opens up at 82.21, pretty much the top of this candle. And what does it do? It has a nice little downturn, bottoms out, and then it becomes range bound right here. So if the goal is to watch a pattern develop, once the bottom has been put in and we get this sideways action, what are we going to do? Well, we're going to draw a line at the high. We're going to draw a line at the low, which I've already done, and then we're going to wait. And then if we see the low being hit, because we've set a price alert right here, then when that penetration occurs, the risk, if we look back at the 15-minute rule, which is what I like to use, not including the entry bar, we go 5, 10, 15. That's our risk up there. And then if we're alerted at the right time, we can hit that trade. Now, it didn't fire until 10:56 Pacific time. So watch, when I double click here, boom. Now, Andy and I were laughing about this earlier because this just happened to fire right here. Now, we would have already had our price alert set, but man, what a timely call on this guy. Because, you know, I can only assume one of the filters wasn't being met until this time of day, and then this one would have identified it right here at this break here, and could have played it. Now, on other days, and I can't get specific right now, I'm going to go back and do this later on and compare, but if things are the opposite direction on the compare counts, and especially if you see boom, 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 60% heavy buying in the first 20 minutes, well then, what are your expectations? All right, so when you see one or two of these guys pop out, you go, okay, let's let it hit a high and a low. Let's put the ranges on there. Then we'll set our price alerts to the upside and the downside. So, you know, it's a real simple methodology, which everybody knows I like. The simpler, the better. This window is just going to be delivering to you, okay, don't know which way the wind's blowing yet. Let's look at the compare counts. Okay, then when you see these guys, you let them come to you. You let the wind take over. You let that volume tell you where it's going, because one thing's for certain, if something's gapping up 3%, it's probably going to finish today doing a ton of volume. And as we can see from our single stock window here, 6.36, almost, you know, 13.2 million shares. So I'll drop this little guy in the chat as well. And Andy, I don't want to take up all the time here, so.
All right, buddy. Well, very good stuff,
I got a little carried away. I'm sorry.
That's all right. That's okay, man. I'll squeeze it in, man. It's fine.
Okay.
Let me grab the presenter from you. All right. Let me squeeze this stuff in. Looking at here. And I told you I was going to share with you guys a new alert. So let's just pull it up here. Let me actually make my charts kind of big here. And like I said, some of you guys, if you've been in Barry's room, you have seen this. So this is kind of another bottom fishing alert. Now, the thing about bottom fishing, I kind of like it. I think there's going to be some great alpha, some great opportunity when you're bottom fishing. The thing about it is, when you're wrong, you have to get out. It's it's really easy to get caught up in when you're looking at these daily charts, you know, that a stock has, you know, sold off, you know, just been selling and selling and selling. This thing has to bounce, and then you're wrong, and next thing you know, you start convincing yourself it's going to bounce, and it starts going against you, and you start looking for reasons why you should hold on, because it is a dangerous game, but it can be very profitable as long as you adhere to your rules. And when you're wrong, you get out. There's just very simple. You adhere to your rules. This can be a very profitable game. So let's take a look at this filter. It's on history right now, but let's go to the configuration, and it's very simple. Basically, what we're looking for is a new high, and it's a 2-day high. Okay, so we're looking for a 2-day high, and let's take a look at the window specific filters. And price 1 to 500, volume today 250,000. Daily RSI is at max 30. Okay, basically, you know, it's just a relative strength, and it's a way, RSI, for those who don't understand it, it's just a concept used to gauge the strength of a stock and when a stock become oversold and overbought. Some like to say if a stock is over 70, it's overbought. If it's below 30, it's oversold. Now, does that mean the stock's going to turn around and start going up? No, it doesn't. They can stay overbought and oversold for a very long period of time. So you never use RSI alone when you're looking to, you know, enter short or go long a stock. You just don't do it. But in this case, what Barry also did was put in change from 20-day SMA. It's got to be down 10%. So max 10%. So it has to be down, it has to be 10% away from its 20-day simple moving average or greater. So that's telling you what is a simple moving average. Okay, it's the average price of the stock based over that time frame. So if you're looking at a 20-day time frame, let's take this PPI. So what would you do is you take the average price of the stock and you have a little line. In this case, it would probably be way up here because remember the stock has to be 20%, I mean at least 10% below that that 20-day moving average. So let's see what we got in this thing. Very simple. Not a lot of filters here, and basically all you're using is a 2-day high. Okay, why not a 1-day high? Well, 2 days just a little bit more of a confirmation that there could potentially be a bounce here. So let's take a look at some of the history. Let's see what came through today. These are the stocks that came through today. And I'm going to tell you how I would play these things. Like JCPenney, this one was actually coming through yesterday. So if you pull this up and you see like 3 or 4, you know, bars in a row, green bars in a row, you know, I want to catch these early because what happens here is you have the short sellers and that maybe short this stock, and then also you have the people who are interested in maybe bottom fishing. They can cause some nice alpha, you know, to generate as people cover their shorts and new interests of longs come in. Now, it may only last a few days. In many cases, it does because the really good short sellers, in many cases, they know what the final outcome is going to be for a lot of these stocks. And in many cases it's bankruptcy. So you have to be careful. And this is not the kind of strategy. I'm looking for something like my Let's Go Fishing that has some fundamentals behind it when I'm looking to maybe swing things for several days. But this could be a very good, you know, momentum trader. Let's take a look at PI. PI was a beautiful one. Okay, you had day 1 high on this day right here. You didn't have a new high until this one right here. Well, this is day 2 high when it took out the high of yesterday. Very nice alpha. You can see immediately pushing, volume coming in as the shorts recover and new interest comes in, pull it back a little bit, and some nice alpha there in that one today. Let's take a look. Now this one didn't work. Not all of them are going to work, but this is a pretty nasty stock if you have never traded it. And even if you haven't, a lot of times all you have to do is look at the candlestick, you know, the 5 and 15-minute candlesticks. And when you start seeing action like that, you know, pull back, look, whatever, you know, just sometimes I look at a stock and if it has that kind of action, I won't even venture into it. All right, INSW, let's see what this one did. very nice today. Okay, you can see there as soon as it took out yesterday's high, day one, because you actually did hit a high yesterday, took it out, you had your alert, some very nice volume coming in, very oversold, beaten up stock, and then you had a nice little bounce there. So there can be some incredible, I don't have time when I share this, take a look at the ones yesterday. I back tested this early. Now these guys, you're gonna find out that they don't back test very well. I mean, you can optimize and get them, but what you want to do is, once again, we keep referring to the machine with the man, okay? The machine is giving you the data. The machine is spitting out the alerts. You as a trader, you know, line the stars up, you know, see if you want to take the trade or not, and act upon it, okay? Because what happens when you start back testing this and you get all these alerts that are coming through, and you back test it, say tomorrow you're only getting 50 alerts in a 64-day period, then what's going to happen? You're only going to get maybe one a day come through, and some days you're not going to get any. So I like to keep them pretty raw and then use my own judgment. So anyway, guys, let me share this with you. Like I said, Barry made it. It's a very interesting one. Take a look at it. See if it's made for you. It may not be your style. If it's not, don't worry about it. Maybe all you want to do is trade momentum to the upside. There's no wrong style of trading as long as you're making profits. Let me take this off real time because I'm starting to lose my voice here. Allergies are kicking in, and I'm going to save this, share this to the cloud, and I will drop it in to the chat window. So you guys can grab that. You'll have plenty of time to grab that, as I asked Steve if he would be so kind as to come in and walk us out, because I'm going to have a coughing attack here in a minute. But
All right.
If you're not available, Steve, I
here.
appreciate it, buddy.
Happy to do so. Just go ahead and
you.
pop it up in presentation mode in the final slides. Yeah, that'll work. Trade Ideas Podcast is a new Friday afternoon podcast recorded after the close of Friday and uploaded shortly thereafter. So just search for it in your favorite podcast distribution app, iTunes, what have you. But Trade Ideas Podcast is what you want to search for. You can even do a basic Google search and it'll bring up some ways in which you can download the podcast, which is generally hosted by Jamie and somebody new and different every week for the most part. So we'll leave it up to tomorrow for you guys as a surprise to see who comes in to speak. Okay, next slide. So as promised, in the polls, we realized there's half the people that are not current subscribers. So to reward you for the webinar today and listening to our presentation, there is a 15% off your first month or year of Trade Ideas. And it's simply capital SUNRISE, Sunrise, all caps. You use that at the checkout portion of the Trade Ideas, and either standard or premium, that will work for you. Again, the premium has the AI, the back testing, the price alerts, but standard has basically everything you need to create the customized alerts that we're using. It just excludes the AI and the back testing for the most part. All right, so that code is good to go. If you have any questions, the best place to send them to is info@trade-ideas.com. That way, depending upon the nature of your question, we can route that to the correct person, whether it's a trading configuration question or a technical support connection issue or even a feature request. We can send that to our developers. So that's the best place to start. You can follow Jamie at QuantBot on the Twitter platform. You can follow myself at TodayTrader on the Twitter platform. And the phone number at the bottom really is just kind of a third option and primarily used for accounting issues. More than likely, you'll leave a voicemail and get a call back within 24 hours from one of our account department specialists. So if you have ideas that you need answered in real time, the lower chat orange chat window on our homepage at trade-ideas.com can give you instant access to us. Otherwise, info@trade-ideas really is your best bet, and then we can triage that and route that to the appropriate person. So once again, this webinar was recorded. It will be uploaded very soon. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Jamie. Please remember that we have our Friday 3-hour technical support session as well. So if you're on the webinar email list, you'll probably see something about Friday tech support session. Great way for people to come in and just use this same GoToWebinar interface here, ask questions, and the three of us will answer questions and demonstrate things for you live. It's a great way to get your feet wet and start the learning curve, especially for those that are still a week away or so from their one-on-one session with us. So with that said, once again, thank you, Jamie. Thank you, Andy. And we'll see some of you tomorrow.
Thanks,
All
Steve.
right, thanks
Thanks everybody
Steve.
for popping in.
All
Yes,
right.
thank you. Bye-bye.